This little fly is a baby Prince Nymph and a great example of why we tie our own flies. The Prince Nymph's known as a searching pattern, but in midge waters where all these little insects are around, having a regular sized Prince Nymph's like looking at a Nautilus submarine. So here's a Prince Nymph tied on a size 14, and you can see how big it is. So let's get started tying our baby Prince Nymph. I have in my vise a size 20 dry fly hook, standard length, standard diameter wire. On the tip I have a 1.5 millimeter tungsten bead. We'll start our fly with a red 14-aught thread. We'll start one bead length behind the bead. And at this point we want to spin our thread counterclockwise, that's looking from the hook down onto the bobbin, counterclockwise to flatten it out. We want to build as little bulk as possible around the hook shank. And we'll wrap this down to the bend of the hook. You can see my thread is very flat at this point. And then we'll go back to the middle. The best way I know how to get a small bead onto a hook is take some painter's tape and fold it back on itself. So you have sticky side, sticky side. Now I'm going to bring the little bead into my hand here. And you'll see there's two sides. There's a big hole on that side, small hole on the other side. Now we want to have the big hole up. We're going to take our sticky tape and put it on the big hole. And you'll see that it grabs a hold of it. And the little hole is facing up. So we made a little L. We're going to then take our hook, and if you have to grab it with some pliers and, do that, get it centered, and then just line it up into the little hole and hook it on. Cut 2 brown goose biots from the middle of the feather where they aren't too thin and weak or too stiff. Biots have a curve in them. If you look at the cross section, we want the convex side up against the hook shank. The length of our biot should be 3/4 the distance from the bead to where we ended our thread. You can make it a little bit longer, and then we can always pull it to short. Put the biot against the hook with the convex side up against the hook. At this point, we want our thread to be a little rounder. Spin it clockwise. We'll make a couple loose wraps, make sure it's up alongside, and we'll take a look at it. Now, it's always easier to make these things shorter than it is longer because you're going from a wide to a point. So let's adjust this guy to length. All right, now we'll hold him again. He's wanting to curve around to the bottom of the hook shank, so let's pull him back up there. Actually, I want him a little, yes. And let's tie him down. All right, let's take our next biot, do the same. The convex side against the hook shank, we can measure to the same length. Make a couple wraps. Make sure he's not going to wrap around the hook on us. Let's take a look. Okay, he is too long, so we'll make him a little shorter. Let you guys take a look. Okay, he's starting to wrap around the top of the hook shank, so we'll adjust him. Okay, now we want to pinch them and lock them both in, being very deliberate here on holding those guys in shape, and get as close as we can to the end there. Those look really good. Let's cut them to length. Now let's wrap these back towards the bend. And as we do this, you'll start to see them flare, and that's because we have that convex side up against the hook shank. Those look real nice. Grab a section of extra small silver wire. Now you can use a oval tinsel or you can use a flat tinsel. The wire here is 100 microns. Round tinsels I've seen are around 115 to 120 microns. And if you have a flat tinsel, it needs to be 150 microns or less. Otherwise, it's overpowering. So we're going to take our extra small silver wire here. We're going to bring it underneath our thread. Put it on top of the hook shank. Again, we mount everything on the top of the hook shank just to keep our volume of material on the bottom less, so we're not effectively narrowing the gape of the hook. And that looks good. We'll tie him down. Again, we'll do a flat thread on this. Wind back to where our tail is. Select a piece of herl. I like the herl from these strung packages. Select a piece that has really good barbs, at least along one side, and that's fairly soft. So those on the strung herl work really well. Now, if you want to take them off the eye, the sword, take herls closest to the eye that you can get them. That way the barbs aren't too long and you won't have to give the fly a haircut, because some of those herls can have really bushy barbs. We're going to bring that up underneath. We're going to set him on top, and we're going to wrap him. And we'll cut him off. Now, as you can see, just as a note, I don't have any material up next against my beads yet. Now, I'm doing that so that when I mount my biots, they're a little bit of an angle and the horns will stick up. We're going to wrap our herl. Now, we want our herl to come over the top. You have to watch that if you still have the point exposed, that you don't catch your herl on the point. Otherwise, it rips it to shreds. A couple wraps behind the herl, and then one or two in front, and we'll trim that off. We'll repeat that process with the wire, but this time we're going to go underneath and do a counter wrap. And we're going to do about 4 turns, not too many. I think I've got maybe 3.5, and then we'll wind it around there. Couple overwraps, and then we'll take care of that wire. Take a goose biot. From the base of the feather, you want to select one that's as wide as possible because we're just using the point. Otherwise, we wouldn't be able to see it. We want to cut this thing a little shorter, otherwise it'll be in our way. But take it and place it across the body right behind the bead. Our final length will be just less than the length of the body. Deliberately hold that thing down. Take your thread, go around him twice. And we're going to take a look at him. We'll pull him shorter. That's just about right there. I'm going to give him another tug. Taking our second biot, again, concave side down. Make an X right over the other one. Then cut him a little shorter so he doesn't get in our way on our tight wraps here. And make a couple wraps right behind the bead. Okay. He's not quite where we want him. He's sagging a little bit. We'll adjust him. We're going to pull him to length. We'll hold them in place, and then we'll lock them down. That's good. Take a razor blade, lay it on top, being sure not to cut your thread. Shaky hands of old fly tire and a razor blade are not probably a good combination. Take a hen hackle feather. Now this one, the barbs are measured the length for a size 24 hook. And the reason I did that is because, as you can see, our hook shank with all the thread on it has gotten much bigger. So anything larger than a size 22 feather would look disproportional. I've prepped it by taking a few barbs off the end. We're going to lay this across at a 45-degree angle on the top with the shiny side facing forward. Going to capture that guy. Make a few tight wraps. Now we don't want our collar to extend back over our biots, so just be aware of that. I'll give you a shot there. Take a set of small hackle pliers. We're going to make a couple wraps. You may have to twist your hackle pliers a little bit to make sure that shiny side stays to the front. Do a second wrap right in front of him. Take your half-inch tool and just push them back. Make sure they're against each other and not going over the biots. But, all right, we'll bring our thread over these guys. 1, 2 wraps. Pull everything back. Let's do a couple more wraps. All right, let's trim this guy off. Okay. Carefully make a few more wraps so we have a nice red collar. You can take a whip finisher into it. I use, as you guys probably know, always use a half hitch because I like more control. I can kind of push things out of the way if I want to. And I'm going to do a double half hitch. We'll give you a top view. That guy looks pretty good. I'll cut the thread at this point. Okay, there we have one baby Prince Nymph ready to go find a princess.